What's up everyone? So in today's video I'm going to be giving 5 tips on how to improve your conventional deadlift. So for my current subscribers, you will know that I've been doing daily vlogs of how my Ramadan is going. So today is currently day 6 of Ramadan. Yesterday was day 5 and I really didn't do anything that much apart from studying for my exams. So today I'm going to be making this video. However, for my new viewers, I would appreciate if you subscribe to this channel as I'm going to be giving out more informational content as this. Remember to also like and share and comment down any other tips of the conventional deadlift that you have to offer. Of course there are many tips, but in this video I will just be summarizing 5 and which have benefited me. The first tip that I'm going to be starting with is from the floor, and that is using our feet. So, as you may know, if you wear shoes when deadlifting, even doing a sumo conventional, wearing shoes with thick soles will create instability of the foot, which is not ideal. You want to be as stable as possible when performing this type of movement. Therefore, I would recommend you wear no shoes, just the socks, or if you're in a competition setting, I would invest in a pair of deadlift slippers. However, in the group where the shoes were worn, there was an increase in barbell vertical displacement and also work. This obviously advocates that a higher workload is needed when wearing shoes. Also, being as close as you can be with the contact with the floor means that you have better balance, etc. Furthermore, you want to look at how wide your stance basically. Obviously this is an individual, this differs between different individuals. For me personally, I have to go just a bit wider than shoulder width even when doing a conventional deadlift. This is because I have kind of big hips, so when I'm at the bottom, when I start to pull, I have enough space at the bottom for me to use my leg drive as much as possible. Also, in relation to that previous study I mentioned, it will be in the description. This is a new area of research, and I'm personally going to be exploring this as my dissertation or final year research project in my 3rd year of my university, which from probably start of August. So I'll be looking at footwear, if footwear does affect conventional deadlifts but in different speed conditions, and I've written a whole rationale about that, etc. But I need to see if it'll get approved, and then if so, that'll be my research project. But anyway, moving to point number 2. Okay, so moving to point number 2 is, before initiating the pull, you want to make sure that the bar is close to you as much as possible. The reason for this is simple. You don't want to pull where the bar is further away from you, because that will require more workload and that can be a higher risk of injury as you're not moving correctly. You're moving, instead of going from A to B, you're going to from A to B to C. Like, it's gonna mess up your whole movement pattern, etc. This goes on to my tip number 3, which is to pull up and backwards, not just pull up. What do I mean by this? You want to essentially think of a deadlift as a hinge, not just a straight up pulling. A cue I like to use for this is to pull up on the shins. This may be painful at first, but many powerlifters and many elite strength athletes would always have some type of bruising or bleeding from the shin, and that's because the deadlift has the pattern of the deadlift is always going up the shin to keep as close as possible. This obviously decreases the range of motion and also just makes the lift as smooth as possible, and it also makes you as close to the bar as possible. My 4th tip is a bit of a weird one, but I've watched a video on this ages ago. I forgot who it was by, but it's to keep the chin tucked before you initiate the lift. The reason for this is to make sure your whole spine is neutral. Say I'm going to turn around and demonstrate. Say I'm at the bottom of a deadlift and before I pull, I'm looking up like this. First of all, second of all, it's not kind of safe because your neck and your spine is not aligned together. However, if you pull and your chin's tucked in, you're more compact together and your whole spine is neutral, and your mass, the center of gravity, will always be down. And another tip is when I pull up, it goes past my knees, and I like to look up, as when I look up, my knees will lock out and my hips will lock out. It's just a nice tip that I've learned and I've always used. And I remember once, a couple years ago, when I just started deadlifting, I was struggling to hit 100 max. I think it was 150, which is like a piss easy weight now. When I just watched this video and the next day I aimed for it again and went up straight away. So to keep the chin tucked before pulling and keep your lats tucked as well. The lats is what will keep the bar in place. and make sure you're not all floppy, etc. Okay, so my tip number 5 is to include assisted exercises and also different types of deadlift variations. As we know in powerlifting, our 3 main lifts are the squat, bench and deadlift. The squat and the deadlift both complement each other already, as they're both lower body movements and they both kind of have not the same movement patterns but the same like musculature is involved. Including assisted exercises for each different body part of the deadlift. We know the deadlift is like a full body exercise anyway, so you can target different areas where you lack. For example, if you lack at this for conventional deadlift, if you're lacking on the glutes for example, you'd want to include some type of glute assistant work in the form of hip thrusts, etc. If your shoulders always curl up and your whole back is just dead, just include any type of rowing, face pulls. Back work is key. I've always said back is the most important muscle for powerlifting for me personally. As for squatting, if you're doing a low bar squat, this is off a tangent, but if you're doing a low bar squat, your rear delts and upper back needs to be thick. If you're benching, your upper back needs to be strong and can support. Deadlifting, same thing. You get the drill. Also, if you're a beginner in the deadlift, I wouldn't recommend you keep on switching deadlift variations. Just stick to the normal deadlift, and once you plateau, because obviously you're a beginner, you need to get strong everywhere. But if you're like an advanced intermediate lifter, I recommend swapping out like every couple of weeks deadlift variations such as like deficit deadlifts, rack pulls, snatch grip deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, etc. Trap bar deadlifts. There's various different types of deadlifts. This is to override the biological law of over accommodation, which can't be as explained in this video. But that's for all the advanced and like maybe some intermediate lifters. But yeah, that's a good tip, just to include any assistant exercises. It should be considered as like hypertrophy work if you want, because obviously you want to make sure everything's suitable. Anyways, that was some tips that it has helped me personally. If you have any other tips, let me know down in the comment section below. I can think of one right now actually just came in my head. Is from the floor to your knees, think of the deadlift as like a leg press, to be honest. That's what I do. Leg drive is key. You want to make sure your hips doesn't rise before your chests. You want to make sure they both rise at the same rate. That's just a nice tip that came in my head. But yeah, you want to make sure your technique is on point before you try any of these tips I've said, because it takes a lot of time. But yeah, thank you for watching, and remember, if you haven't subscribed, already subscribe. And if you want to see any more different types of videos like this, let me know, and I'll catch you in a bit.